Yesterday, I said absolutely not because Brandon Marshall was in the same receiving unit room. Today, Brandon Marshall is no longer there. This would be very interesting. It would be very interesting, and I think I'm not going to say they should. Could they? Would he help them? Yes. And here's why. Because if Dez Bryant says, man, I want to go to New York, or it would be a great opportunity, or I would love to play next to Odell, he's going there with the mentality that I am not the #1 guy. Odell is the #1 guy. So that would be my main concern. Him going anywhere believing I'm still #1. I'm going to demand the ball like a #1 receiver. Well, going to the New York Giants, he understands Odell Beckham is the #1 guy. I have a relationship with him. I heard you speaking on it earlier. They would compete and pull out the best in one another. But I like it more so because he would have the mentality that I'm not the #1 guy, and I get to play those guys in Dallas 2 times. That whole motivational factor, when you're this late in your career, this long in your career, you need everything that you can to kind of fuel you, to motivate you to play every single Sunday.
So you don't believe that to be a myth? And then yourself, you also experienced free agency after how many years in Green Bay?
7.
7 years, almost exactly like Dez. Had a lot of success, actually had some playoff success, and won a Super Bowl. Did you go through this same type of process? Because you end up, for those who don't know, you left Green Bay, end up going to Minnesota. I happen to be one of the people that Greg called when he was making that transition. What do you think that I should do? Now, I think you went about it the right way. You put the motivation of playing the Packers at the back end. You went for fit, and then the motivation just happened to be, while the Vikings happen to be a great opportunity. As long as he has his priorities in line as far as, no, I'm not the #1 guy, and this is the right fit, then that extra motivation, I believe, of playing a team that you know, DBs that you know, and you would have a lot of confidence in going into those games. So I see how Gettleman, he should be looking at every opportunity to make the Giants a better roster, and Dez Bryant should be a part of that evaluation.
From a pure football perspective, only on the field, this would make perfect sense. Dez is a better version of what they thought they were getting with Brandon Marshall. I'm not talking about peak versus peak, but Dez right now, even a deteriorated Dez Bryant, is better than what Brandon Marshall was at this point in his career. Also, stylistically, we talked about this earlier. When the Vikings added Randy Moss, it wasn't just they're adding an amazing talent. He's a guy who, as a rookie particularly, is very stylistically different than Cris Carter, the Pro Bowl wide receiver, all-pro wide receiver they've already had. They know one guy can run 49 routes a game if he needs to, and the other guy's going to do more of the dirty work, particularly early in his career.
Another guy needs 49 balls thrown.
And so I understand all that, why it's a fit. The question that I want to bring up is a name we haven't said. Pat Shurmur, new head coach with the New York Giants. I know he's been a head coach before, but that wasn't successful for him. We already know that there is going to be at least some type of added media attention or controversy surrounding Odell, even if Odell's on his best behavior. Even Odell on his best behavior is still going to have an emotional outburst on the sideline, is still going to be the player he's always been. How much harder are you making your new head coach's job if you bring in another variable at the same position, in the same position room, for not only, I guess, Pat Shurmur, but also for Eli? How much is that a real thing, particularly for the new head coach?
It's something that you have to think about, but you also have to think about how much easier is it for that head coach to game plan. So how much easier for me to get the type of matchups, these sexy plays and stuff that I run? He's an offensive coach. Man, he wants to score some points. Like, he'd like the defense to improve and be better than they were last year, but how much does it help him do his job immediately, make the type of impact? The reason why he wasn't successful in Cleveland was he didn't have the weapons. And also, is this Dez Bryant, is it enough motivation that is it a carrot in front of Odell Beckham? Because Odell Beckham working out with Dez Bryant, I can guarantee you what he's told the coach and the general manager. Hey, we can bring this guy in there. So Dave Gettleman can extend him an olive branch like, okay, I'm going to take your opinion on this, as if you're going to help us bring some guys in. So I think that could help with the relationship that Odell has with the organization. So there are some pluses with this adding Dez to the roster.
Go ahead.
It's all about the pros outweighing the cons. If you look at it, Pat Shurmur's situation, and you say, well, I got these personalities that I have to deal with, potentially, but the upside is greater, I'm going with that. And when we look at the potential that this could be, and it's a big if, the upside of Dez Bryant being within an offense with an Odell Beckham, an Eli Manning, a Sterling Shepard, an Evan Ingram,
maybe a Saquon Barkley.
Maybe a Saquon. Like you're salivating at this situation and this possibility.
But also, what if this goes well? We always look at things, oh, what if this don't work out? If it goes well, you know who gets credit? Gettleman, Pat Shurmur. Odell gets everything changed around. You know who gets credit? Pat Shurmur. Mm-hmm. They start to get credit for that. If they draft Barkley and he's successful, if they extend Eli's career, you know who get credit? Because we always looking to blame someone. Well, what if this goes bad? Well, what if it goes good? Then they get the credit for it, and those are things that general managers and coaches like to see.
Are we making too big a deal about personalities meshing? That's something that media members do. That's something that fans do. But as players, when you're putting two guys in who want to play very well and who are used to playing very well, and we say, oh, how are these personalities ever going to mesh? How are they ever going to spell out success on the field? Are we sort of overstating that? Is it less of a big deal than we're talking about?
I like to use this example. If I had 2 gallons here and I filled one of them up, a half gallon with 100% Florida orange juice, and I put a half a gallon of manure in this one, if I happen to pour this half gallon of manure in with this half gallon of 100% pure orange juice, what you got is a gallon of bull. Okay? That's what you got. All right? So if you believe that bad won't spoil good, it will. As long as you're in sports, and as long as you're dealing with talent, you will always deal with what are the personalities, and you always have to measure what the conflict that can be in that locker room, because you only play 16 games in the NFL. Where you are at all the time is in the locker room, in the meeting room. So it becomes important. Not that, man, that I like you, but, man, I like being around you.
Yeah, the reason why I think we put a little too much, I shouldn't say we put too much emphasis on personalities meshing. It's the kind of personalities that we're talking about. When you're looking at a Dez Bryant and an Odell Beckham, on the field, Dez Bryant, his personality is the way it is because he wants to win.
Bingo.
Bottom line, and we don't have any issue with Dez Bryant off the field. Early in his career,
yes,
there was some concerns. He has shown so much maturity when it comes to off the field, but football just being in our vision, I'll take that every day. If you're competitive and you want to win, I want every bit of and every ounce of that emotion. I just need you to be able to contain it a bit.
And there is a bit of a kindred spirit to Dez and Odell, as far as on the field, but on the sideline. Let me put it like this. Odell is a better fit with Dez than he would be with Jason Witten, right? Like, so sometimes, and I say that because sometimes guys that have the same, I don't want to call them character flaws, but the same issues.
They have the same blood type.
They're perfectly put. Thank you. Like, they're going to get each other. There's a reason they're working out together. I bet both those guys, when they're not working out, they can commiserate together. Man, we're so misunderstood. We just want to win. That's all it's about. I'm not yelling at you because I'm mad at you. I'm yelling at you because I want the best out of you. So, like, it's the old Chris Rock bit that, like, the two, I don't know if I should do the bit, but people that have the same vices can get along together. People that have the same vices can get along together, but one person that is a churchgoer, another person that is vice-riddled, that marriage doesn't always work. These guys, they have the same, as Chris put it, blood type. So I do think it could be explosive. Right? You could look back and say, oh, what do we expect when we put these two guys together? Or they could finally say, finally somebody gets me. And Dez could think, finally, it's not Witten mad at me for yelling. It's a guy yelling back at me in a good way as opposed to in a negative way.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.